The distress beacon had been looping for 17 hours when Elias Varn finally heard it. Most signals out here, in the cold drift between map systems, were ghosts, old pings from dead ships or broken relays bouncing endlessly through the void. But this one was different. It pulsed with intention, a rhythmic call that adapted as his ship drew closer, as if it knew he was listening. Elias leaned forward in his pilot's chair, brow furrowed. "Translate pattern," he muttered. The ship's AI hesitated. "Unknown language. Structure suggests non-human origin. Signal carries urgency markers." Elias exhaled slowly. He hadn't planned on playing hero today. He was a salvager, a recycler of lost things. The kind of man who made a living from the mistakes of others, wrecked freighters, abandoned outposts, drifting cargo. Not distress calls. But something about this one. It wasn't just a call for help. It was a plea. "Plot trajectory," he said. The source of the signal was a shattered vessel orbiting a dim blue dwarf star. It wasn't human. That much was obvious even before Elias got close. The ship was elegant, too elegant for something built purely for utility. Curved structures like flowing metal, luminous veins of energy pulsing across its surface. It looked almost alive. "Definitely not scrap," Elias whispered. "And definitely not safe." Still, he docked. The interior was dim, humming softly with failing power. The air was breathable, barely, but tinged with something unfamiliar. Sweet. Sharp. Almost like ozone mixed with crushed petals. Elias adjusted his mask and stepped deeper inside. "Hello," he called out. No response. Only the distant echo of failing systems and something else. A sound. Soft. Uneven. Breathing. He followed it through curved corridors, past flickering panels and collapsed structures, until he reached what looked like a command chamber. And there, collapsed against a fractured console, was her. She was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Tall, even slumped. Skin that shimmered faintly like polished pearl, with faint iridescent patterns shifting beneath the surface. Her hair, if it could be called that, flowed in soft strands of silver light, drifting as if underwater. And her eyes, they snapped open the moment he stepped closer. Bright, luminous, violet, locked onto him. Elias froze. She didn't speak. Not at first. But her gaze, it wasn't fear. It was recognition. "You came," she whispered. The words weren't spoken aloud. They formed directly in his mind, clear, precise, unmistakable. Elias blinked. Yeah, I got your signal." She tried to rise, and failed. He moved instinctively, catching her before she collapsed fully. Her skin was warm. Too warm. "You are human," she said, her voice still echoing inside his thoughts. "Last I checked." Her eyes studied him with an intensity that made his chest tighten. "You are compatible." Elias frowned. "With what?" She didn't answer. Instead, her body trembled. "Okay, first things first," Elias said, forcing calm into his voice. "You're injured. Your ship's falling apart. We need to get you out of here." She shook her head weakly. "No. The ship is irrelevant." "Yeah, well, it's about to become very relevant when it explodes." Another tremor ran through her. Stronger this time. Elias noticed it then, the subtle glow beneath her skin intensifying, the faint shimmer turning into something brighter. Pulsing. Alive. "What's happening to you?" he asked. Her eyes softened. "It has begun." Elias didn't like the sound of that. Begun what? She hesitated. And for the first time, there was something like vulnerability in her expression. "My instinctseason." Elias stared at her. "I'm sorry, you're what?" "It is a phase of my species," she explained, her voice wavering slightly. A biological imperative. Heightened awareness. Increased strength. Emotional intensification. That doesn't sound so bad. She met his gaze. It is also when we choose a bond. Elias felt a chill crawl up his spine. Oh. He helped her to her feet, ignoring the strange warmth radiating from her body. Okay, he said carefully. We're getting off this ship. You can explain all of that somewhere that isn't actively dying. She didn't resist this time. In fact, she leaned into him, closer than necessary. The moment they crossed onto Elias's ship, something shifted. He felt it immediately. A pressure in the air. Subtle, but unmistakable. Like the space itself had grown heavier. She inhaled sharply. This environment, she murmured. Contained. Stable. Yeah, that's kind of the point. Her hand tightened on his arm. Good. He guided her to the med bay, easing her onto the diagnostic table. The scanner flickered uncertainly as it tried to process her biology. Yeah, I figured, Elias muttered. She watched him instead. Not the machines. Not the room. Him. You are unaffected, she said. By what? My presence. Elias shrugged. Should I be? She tilted her head slightly. Most species respond instinctively. My kind emits signals. During this phase. Signals like what? She hesitated. Then, attraction. Compulsion. Bonding. Elias let out a slow breath. Well, good news. I'm not most species. Her gaze lingered on him. Yes, she said softly. That is becoming very clear. Hours passed. The ship drifted safely away from the wreck, engines humming softly as Elias set a course for the nearest outpost. She stayed in the med bay, but she didn't sleep. Couldn't, it seemed. Her condition intensified. The glow beneath her skin grew brighter. Her movements more restless. Her breathing deeper, uneven. And always, her eyes found him. Do you have a name? Elias asked finally. She blinked, as if the concept had taken effort to process. Yes, she said, but it does not translate easily. Try me. She studied him for a moment. Then, call me Lyra. Lyra, Elias repeated. I'm Elias. I know, she said quietly. He frowned. You read that from me? She shook her head. No. I felt it. The next tremor was worse. She gasped, gripping the edge of the table as her body arched slightly. Elias moved instantly. Hey, easy. Her hand shot out, grabbing his wrist. The contact sent a jolt through him. Not pain. Something else. Something warm. Her eyes locked onto his. It is progressing faster than expected. Yeah, I can see that. She pulled him closer. Not forcefully, but with a quiet certainty. You do not understand, she said. This phase, it requires a resolution. And what happens if it doesn't get one? She held his gaze. I deteriorate. Elias's chest tightened. He paced the medbay later, running a hand through his hair. Okay, he muttered. Think. Alienroyal. Instinct season. Bonding phase. Deterioration, if unresolved. Perfect, he said dryly. Just another day. Behind him, Lyra watched. You are troubled. Yeah, he said. That tends to happen when someone tells me they might die unless something happens, and I don't even fully understand what that something is. She was quiet for a moment. Then, it is not purely physical. Elias stopped pacing. Explain. She shifted slightly, her glow dimming just enough to reveal something softer beneath it. It is connection, recognition, trust, a joining of intent. That sounds a lot less terrifying than what I was imagining. Her lips curved faintly. It is still intense. Over the next day, Elias began to understand. Lyra's instinct season wasn't just biological, it was emotional, psychological, almost spiritual. She wasn't driven by blind impulse. She was searching for someone who resonated, someone who could meet her, not just physically, but mentally. And for reasons neither of them fully understood, she had chosen him. "You could be wrong," Elias said at one point. "About me, I mean." She shook her head. "I am not." "That's a lot of confidence." "It is certainty." He sighed. "You don't even know me." Her gaze softened. "I know enough." The ship's journey stretched longer than expected. A minor engine fault forced them to slow their pace, adding days to the trip. Days in close quarters. Days of quiet conversations. Days of learning each other. Elias told her about Earth, about humanity, about the strange, messy, beautiful chaos of his species. She told him about her people, a royal lineage bound by duty, by connection, by the sacred nature of their bonds. "You are important," he said at one point. She tilted her head. "All lives are important." "You know that's not what I meant." A pause. "Then, yes," she admitted. "I am significant." Elias let out a low whistle. "So, I accidentally rescued someone very important during a very critical biological phase." "Yes. Of course I did." But somewhere along the way, the fear faded, replaced by something else. Understanding, respect, and something deeper. The final night before they reached the outpost, Lyra's condition peaked. The glow beneath her skin was brilliant now, casting soft light across the room. Her breathing was steady, but intense. Focused. She stood near the viewport, staring out at the stars. Elias approached slowly. "Hey." She turned to him. "It is time." His heart skipped. For what? For the choice. Silence stretched between them. Elias swallowed. "And what does that involve?" She stepped closer. "No trembling now. No uncertainty. Only clarity. It requires both of us," she said. "Willing. Present. Aligned. And if I say no?" Her expression didn't change. "Then I will endure the consequences." Elias exhaled slowly. "And if I say yes?" Her eyes softened. "Then we begin something that cannot be undone." He looked at her. Really looked. At the strength in her posture. The vulnerability beneath it. The trust she was offering, freely, completely. "You barely know me," he said again. She stepped closer. Close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her. "I know how you act when no one is watching," she said. "I know how you choose when there is no reward. I know how you stayed." Elias's chest tightened. "That's not much." "It is everything." For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Elias let out a slow breath. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Okay." What followed wasn't what he expected. There was no overwhelming surge. No loss of control. Instead, there was stillness. Connection. Her hand found his. And in that moment, something shifted. Not in the room. Not in the air. But between them. A quiet alignment. A shared understanding. A bond, not forced, not demanded, but chosen. The glow beneath her skin softened. Stabilized. Her breathing steadied. And for the first time since he had found her, she smiled. "It is done," she said softly. Elias let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Yeah," he said. "I guess it is." When the outpost finally came into view, Lyra stood beside him in the cockpit. Different now. Stronger. Calmer. Whole. "You'll be questioned," Elias said. "They're not exactly used to royalty." She nodded. "I will handle it." He glanced at her. "And after that?" She met his gaze. That depends. On what? Her lips curved slightly. On whether you intend to leave. Elias looked out at the approaching station, then back at her. He thought about the signal, the choice, the bond, and everything that had changed since. Yeah, he said finally. I think I'll stick around. Lyra's smile deepened. Good, she said.